nailing, a lot of confusion, I believe. Irrespective of what, the surgeon should be comfortable with the implant and should be able to deliver consistent results. Let it be a nail, let it be a plate. So we have seen up to C2 fractures and C1 fractures. So we'll be seeing now highly unstable C3 fractures with bone loss, where severe metaphyseal comminution, where you are unable to reconstruct the metaphyseal area, bone loss. We need to medial comminution, where we need to do either add a medial plate, augment with a fibrillar graft. There are multiple modalities to find a way out of it. These are very challenging fractures. Whether medial pillar reconstruction is necessary, we'll be coming to that. The current concepts are double plating, fibula stud graft. Some of the centers, Dr. Sunil Kulkarni centers, they're using Enders nail. Dr. Shamlal Mukhi in Mumbai, he's using cage with bone graft and tricortical with cancellous bone graft. Is it necessary? Yes. In type C3 fractures, is necessary. It avoids to avoid early or late varus, to start aggressive rehabilitation, start early and progressive weight bearing, to avoid implant failure, and even it is used in non-union cases where single implant is fixed implant is used on the lateral side. Which patients need medial pillar reconstruction? The indications of double plating are AOC3 type of fractures with medial condyle Hoffa's fracture fragments, very distal transcondylar and supracondylar femur fractures, supracondylar intercondylar fractures with medial combination or medial bone loss. Additional of a medial locking plate to an in situ lateral locking plate results in healing of distal femur fractures in non-union. Literature recommends to use of a large inverted T plate, but in my series I used a 3.5 mm LC-DCP, which has been bent on table and been contoured to the medial side. The functional recovery following supplemental medial plating depends upon the severity of the fracture and is not adversely affected by its technique.
Good evening, respected chairpersons, my teachers, and respected delegates. Today is my topic on how to manage trimalleolar fractures. The trimalleolar fractures, usually medial and lateral malleolus associated with posterior malleolar fractures, is called trimalleolar fractures. And the syndesmotic stability and the fixation techniques which are described by Dr. Tanna sir is excellent. And I am going to tell you about the bony part today. And trimalleolar fractures constitutes around 7 to 14% of all ankle fractures. The anatomic prominence found by the posterior margin of the articular surface of the tibia is called the posterior malleolus. It may be called posterior lip of the tibia. Few describes it as a Volkmann's fragments. These trimalleolar fractures disrupts the medial, lateral and posterior part of the ankle, and which destabilizes the structures around the ankle. And understanding the malleolar anatomy and ligamentous attachments and its contribution to the congruity of the ankle joint and stability is the main predictors for the functional outcome which decides the treatment. And closer treatment is difficult in these injuries because of there is a lot of displacement and malunion and poor functional outcome, and even 1 millimeter lateral shift of the talus within the ankle joint can reduce the effective weight bearing area of tibio-talar articulation by 20 to 40%. If it is displaces 5 millimeters, the shift can reduce the articular surface area by 80%, which has a very poor functional outcome. These injuries are intra-articular in nature, and having 3 intra-articular structures, these fractures should be treated as intra-articular fractures. The ankle joint is a complex joint consisting of 3 bones, that is a tibial plafond, that is the articular surface of the tibia on the posterior aspect, and the distal fibula, which is articulating with the tibia by the distal tibiofibular joint, and syndesmosis. This is the syndesmosis which is discussed by Dr. Tanna sir, anteriorly by the anterior tibiofibular ligament, posteriorly by the posterior inferior tibiofibular ligament and interosseous ligaments. These 3 ligaments along with the interosseous membrane which gives stability. And the posterior inferior tibiofibular ligament which is attached to the posterior malleolus, which provides strength about 42% of the syndesmosis stability. So that is the reason why whether to fix it or not, we will see in the next coming.
Working in SLG hospitals. This is brief about myself. I trained in Usmania. I was a former assistant professor of orthopedics in Usmania General Hospital and went to UK. Spent 14 years in UK. I was a former consultant in Preston and Chorley and Ribble Hospital. Did a fellowships in lower limb orthoplasty and major trauma, and involved research projects with Oxford and Warwick University, and I was a lecturer for Birmingham Medical School for 10 years. Coming to this talk, there's no disclosures, no financial involvement. Coming to elderly ankle fractures, they are challenging fractures, difficult in managing, and they are most common, which corresponds to 9% of all fractures. So what are the challenges in elderly? The bones are osteoporosis, cheesy bones, because of age, senile osteoporosis or postmenopausal osteoporosis, or lack of proper diet or lack of exercise. So in osteoporosis, it's very difficult to hold the fractures with a metalwork. There's a very high incidence of cut-through metalwork failures. And the limbs are edematous due to chronic venous insufficiency or lymphedema. And skin condition is very bad. And post-op wound complications are very high. And patient is having multiple comorbidities at this age and multiple medication. And patients will have peripheral neuropathy, vascular problems, and weight bearing in the post-op is very difficult. And if you keep him non-weight bearing, it causes more problems. I'm going to talk more about the mobilization. Any restricted weight bearing in any age group is difficult. If you put non-weight bearing, partial weight bearing, toe touch weight bearing is very difficult to tolerate. Elderly patients, they can't tolerate the non-weight bearing. They will, because of arthritis in the shoulder, elbow, wrist, or balance problems, and they have risk of another falls. So you have to keep in bed rest. So prolonged immobility will cause the worsening of medical comorbidities, loss of mobility and function. If you keep him for prolonged bed rest, it causes other problems like bed sores, urinary tract infection, pneumonia, DVT, pulmonary embolism. So load sharing devices are better in this situation. And traditionally, we'll treat the ankle fractures with open adduction with internal fixation, but there are plenty of papers in the literature shows that if we treat elderly patients with metalwork open adduction internal fixation, they will underperform when compared with young cohorts. And there are predictive risk factors. One is open injury, diabetes, peripheral neuropathy, and peripheral vascular disease. So is there any solution for this in elderly age group in this cohort? With unstable ankle fractures? Yes, there is one solution called hindfoot nail. It's also called TTC nail, also called tibiotalo-calcaneal nail. This is not a new nail. It is there in the market for more than 2 decades. But recently, more and more surgeons and more centers are doing this procedure. There is a good literature is available, and level 1 evidence is available in the literature. Plenty of papers to support this hindfoot nail for these fractures. And we have a modern designs with inbuilt 5 degree of valgus. And what is the advantage of hindfoot nail? It's a closed method, small incisions at the entry site and locking site. You are not opening the fracture site. It's a very quick surgery, less blood loss, immediate weight bearing, and minimal wound problems, quick rehabilitation, limited soft tissue injuries, a low rate of complication, and advantage when compared with the conventional ORIF. And health economics, it is a little bit controversy. Initial surgery may be more expensive because of hindfoot nail is more expensive than the plate and screws. But if you compare overall hospital stay, post-op complications, this is much cheaper than the traditional ORIF. And op technique is same, preparation, position of the patient, entry point, put a guide wire, remit, nail insertion, lock both distal and proximal. Distal use all the locking screws in the talus and the calcaneum. Even in severely osteoporotic bone, there is amount of bone is left in the talus. So position is, you can do it in the prone position, but it has cumbersome. So easy way is supine position, sandbag under the ipsilateral gluteal region, and tourniquet is an optional, you can put it or not. And a stack of sterile towels on the cuff. And foot should be end at 3 to 4 inches from the edge of the table so that you can put posterior screw easily. And radiolucent table and C-arm from the opposite side. And entry point, as you all aware that any nailing technique, the entry point is crucial. If entry point is wrong, whole nail will go wrong. So entry point is very important. Spend some time to accurately mark.
Dr. D.D. Thanna. I welcome Dr. D.D. Thanna, sir, onto the dais, please. Next panelist is Dr. B. Shivashankar, sir. I request Dr. Shivashankar, sir, please come on to the dais. I request Dr. Rahul Tanga to come on to the dais. I request Dr. Srinivas Kasha, please come on to the dais.
Are done radial head replacement. Only two. I cannot see because the light also I cannot see properly. This lady, adult, about 40 years lady, had a bad fracture like this. So, yes. I'll ask one person before I come to the panelist. Somebody एक माइक चाहिए సెకండ్ రో में दीजिए यस సార్ ఏం చేస్తారో చెప్పండి
This is age about
అబౌట్ 40 35 40
radial head excision and hook plate
yes
for the olecranon fraction.
okay I'll ask to Rahul what you will do.
Sir, I'll try to reconstruct the proximal ulna.
Okay.
And if I'll go and have a look at the radial head.
Yeah.
If I can reconstruct, I'll reconstruct. Otherwise, I will leave it alone, and after 3 weeks, I'll go for excision.
Okay. Why after 3 weeks?
Immediate excision will cause a valgus instability of the elbow. That is the reason.
Yes. Okay. Srinivas Kasha?
Agree with him, sir.
Agree with him. Tanna sir?
I
That's the final answer.
presume you are not hiding anything.
No, no,
This
no, no.
patient never had an elbow dislocation.
No.
So the ligaments are intact.
Probably.
MCL and LCL are intact.
I also don't know clinically.
No,
but-
because there is no dislocation which
Yeah,
is there.
that's
It is-
correct.
And the way you have recorded, you say there is no dislocation.
Yes.
So at the moment, I feel there is no necessity to wait for the head of the radius if you want to exercise. But this head of the radius, I feel, is eminently repairable with the Herbert screw there.
Okay.
And obviously, the ulna you will repair with the plate.
Yeah. So because of the lack of time, I'll go quickly. Got a CT scan done which showed that the head was also badly comminuted and the ulna was also very badly comminuted. And these are some of the 3D reconstruction. As one of the doctors said, hook plate I have used and replace the radial head because the plate I wanted to fix was too bulky. I didn't get a proper plate to fix. I didn't try the Herbert screws because the screw length of Herbert's available to me was probably 22 or 24 millimeter, the shortest, and I didn't dare to cross the opposite side, so I didn't use the Herbert screw.
Shiva, this hook,
Yeah.
the upper part of the hook
Yes.
is quite a lot jutting out.
Yeah.
So he's going to have a lot of problem at the elbow. So
Yeah,
probably this hook plate is not adequate, or if at all you use this hook plate, it has to be shoved down all the way down. And this will not go down unless you open up the triceps. You'll have to open up the triceps and go to the bare bone, and then only you will be able to push it down. And the design of this hook which is there, it will never go down, it will always remain high.
Yeah, that's correct. Clinically, since I have done the open plating, it was practically kissing the bone. There is probably because the cartilage and other thing, it appears so proud.
No, it is because as you can see there, it is, unless there is a whole big amount of bulk of the triceps come in the way. So you have to split the triceps, strip it out onto the side, then you will be on the bone. Then you can put the plate or the whatever the implant which you want to put there onto the, then only it will go onto the
Yeah.
bone.
Anyway, I had heard the lecture of Dr. Tanna. That's why I had done everything. In spite of that, it appears so bad. That's what I wanted to show. So, this lady had a squeaky sound. I have used a non-cemented radial head. Anybody uses cemented one always, or anybody uses non-cemented? Yeah, cemented. And any problem you had with using all cemented? Yeah, Tanna sir?
40% of the head needs to be removed.
Yeah,
And that's the reason why it is today being believed that it is a spacer.
yeah.
You keep the spacer and 40% them will need the removal. So if you do a cemented head, it's going to be still a big super surgery. And that's the reason why probably the whole thing is tilting against the cemented and even not even a bone forming implant, but it is a smooth implant which can remain there, if at all a tight fit implant.
That's correct. So, as you can see that I have not stuffed the joint also too much because the radial head level is also fine and there is still some gap. So, in spite of that, the patient had about 30 degrees of elbow flexion restriction, you can see. And she is more concerned about the squeaky sound she was getting whenever she used to flex or extend it. So, this was, she had a reasonable function and I took a call to remove this radial head. I have done so far about 12 cases I have done. I already removed 6 of them. So only 6.
And other 6, when are you going to remove them?
Probably, I don't know, because all this had some squeakiness or extension.
May I then ask you,
Yeah.
what was the indication of doing a radial head here?
I thought that
Because if their MCL was not involved, LCL was not involved, and if you wanted to not repair this head, then pure excision could have been the same thing. Because here there was no point in keeping a spacer till the time MCL or NCL unites.
I am not sure because I also exactly don't know the reason why I did it because I had not done a MRI. Whether the MCL was involved or not, I am not sure. So, yeah, the clinically,
At the moment in your CT scan also there is not showing any dislocation.
That's correct. That's correct. That's fine. Whether I am also not very sure about that. But anyway,
More practice by telling that I have closed the practice. I am still hyperactive in practice.
The case 1, shattered femur, bag of bones mid-shaft with ipsilateral neck of fracture femur. Like to go for a discussion or would like to go for... Yeah.
Yes, discussion is a
Yeah,
title.
yes, sir.
How would you like to do? Prasad?
Sir, my brain is already burnt out.
By Shiva?
I'll show you the clinical picture. The open type 2, though it is internal deglowing with bag of bones lying in the subcutaneous level.
How would you like to?
I'd like to debride it and then go ahead with internal fixation. And if soft tissue attachment, probably excise and then use mask layer. And in fact, I see how much is the shortening which I am going to get. If it is less than 3 to 4 centimeters, I would accept the shortening and then go ahead with internal fixation.
Anyone else would like to take on this? It's a basal fracture. Yeah. Neck with shaft it is.
A recon type of nail, preferably open at the distal part. You have to reconstruct all the fragments together. Try to put them, if a wire is required, you can put a wire also. Then a primary bone grafting. You have to put a primary bone grafting. Thorough debridement and primary bone grafting.
Fragments found on the road. Trust me, these fragments I have been using it right from the last 8 years. Even the patient brings the fragments in their hands, I autoclave it, put it back. If it is indispensable, trust me, they really do well. There is no need of excising and discarding those fragments.
You should not.
Such indispensable bone should not be attempted. So I would show you, these fragments are just lying beneath the skin. This was kept on table, encerclage done outside the soft tissue, you can see.
Yeah.
It was being put it back, as sir was telling, it was being put it back. Multiple encerclage. Encerclage is also a myth. It is a weapon for non-union. No. If proper principles of fixation have been followed, encerclage is never a weapon for non-union. So multiple encerclage. Recon nailing was done. I avoided primary bone grafting. It was very initial period of my practice. And at 8 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks, I have injected bone marrow at multiple levels. bilateral harvesting of the bone marrow and injecting at multiple levels of the fracture. For my luck, he did extremely well and he is walking full weight bearing. This is the full union. I didn't had any issues regarding the union. United very well. So this is the second case. Yeah, any questions? It was between 8 and 12 weeks. I have done a series of cases, sir, in subtrochanteric fracture, delayed union and all. Bone marrow does help.
Is it the same with the international literature about it?
I'm not sure about it, sir.
No, I think it is a surgeon satisfaction. It's a surgeon satisfaction. It not necessarily does anything there because the osteoblasts are already there into the trauma situations which is there. So that is, you are not really devoid of an osteoblast in this sort of a situations. So whether you put in the bone marrow aspiration out of which you have to really, how do you aspirate the bone marrow? If since we are discussing, I'll talk in detail, we'll talk about it.
I use a bone marrow needle, sir, aspiration needle,
How much you will aspirate?
up to 40 ml, sir,
From one side.
on one side, sir.
From one side, what is recommended is you can maximum take out is 3 to 4 cc. And everything else you take out is a serum, which you are taking it out, and which has no osteoblastic cells. So what is recommended, if at all it is, that you multiple sites you aspirate and then centrifuge it and then use
Centrifuge
it
it and then use
for
it.
whatever it is you use like this. So probably you had a good surgery, which was to be helped, and then you are attributing the success to that bone marrow.
Never know,
No,
sir.
no. What Dr. Tanna says is literature-wise it is correct. But even I use it for delayed union or sometime where I want to just wait without doing major surgery.
said you
what I do is I just add plasma, platelet-rich plasma. I ask the blood bank to, I don't do the bone marrow aspiration. Group and match the patient blood and they give platelet concentration. It's about 30 or 40 ml they give out of one whole blood.
Yes, sir.
So I am not sure. I cannot predict which patient will unite.
Unites, yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's very true, sir. Worked, yeah.
Osteoblasts which are there, that osteoblast you put it back, which I have done it on few occasions onto the non-union, but only thing it is very expensive situation. It cost about 1.5 lakh for this bone graft. It is actually a bone graft. Either you put in a patient's bone graft or you take a few bone marrow cells and take an osteoblast, multiply them into the laboratory and then put it back. It takes about a month and it has been recommended and it has been shown to be of equal use as a autograft or whatever you do it.
This is the
Proximal tibia fracture, even tibia is segmental. A young male presented after 36 hours of injury. He was somewhere in Guntur. He came all the way back to my place. He's from native from Bijapur itself. So how would you go with this case?
This
We'll
is
go back
something,
again. It's an open fracture, type 2, proximal femur. Supracondylar fracture, proximal tibia fracture, lower third shaft tibia fracture.
So, debridement and this supracondylar nail for femur, and at the same time, I would use plate for tibia. So,
tibia.
no nail in that area in my hands, but for femur, yes.
Anyone else?
Yeah, you can use a tibial nail along with a lateral tibial plate also. For the proximal fracture, a plate. For a distal fracture, a nail. You can combine this option. And supracondylar nailing is a good option for the femur.
Sir.
Suprapatellar point of entry for a nail, which will give you the perfect reduction of the proximal tibia. About the distal tibia, there is not much of an issue. And the same thing is the distal femur nail, which will look after both the fractures.
This was done in a bit different way. I would definitely say many would talk about it. I am not a person who would never like to use a supracondylar nail, seeing like a lot of complication when we use a short nail, knee stiffness and all. You always try to plate the distal femur. So I did a distal femur plating first with unicortical screws. The anti-grain nail, regular interlocking nail, I sent it to the lathe machine, got the distal locking bolts, anteriorly placed holes. Then I did an anti-grade nailing. I'll show you the case. I'll come back to the clinical pictures. Sorry, PFN was used. Here, as you see, the distal femur plating was done first, followed by long PFN. There it was quadrifocal fracture, so encirclage wire was done. Tibia, all MIPO was done. Medial plate, proximal tibia, lateral plate, and distal tibia, medial plate. And this is the first POD, range of movements. When I made him to walk on first POD. Even here, I again injected bone marrow at 12 weeks. This is the functional outcome. Not he's got up to 100 degrees. This is a 3 years follow-up, consolidated well, all fractures, no complications.
Did you take any MRI before going for a fixation of the fracture?
No, sir.
MRI
no,
of the knee.
No, MRI was not
This
done.
is a flail knee,
Yeah.
of course segmental, above and below.
Yeah.
The chances of ligament injuries are quite high.
Hi, yes.
So that also you should,
Take it into consideration.
it's a mandatory that you take a MRI.
Yes. So young male presented with fracture subluxation. So almost 48 hours, after 48 hours he has presented. This is the clinical picture on table. How would you like to go with this? There was no vascular compromise, but such cases needs to be hurried up and fixed on an emergency basis because it is going to keep on kinking on the posterior popliteal vessel. So though it was 48 hours old, you can see the massive swelling on the knee and calf, but there was no big compartment. Distal pulsation were felt, and there was no foot drop also. So how would you go? How would like to go with this case?
I think you have to reduce the knee or get a traction view,
Yeah.
realign it, and then get a CT scan done to understand it better and then plan for next step, including even MRI also. Yeah, that's fine.
Anyone else
This
would
is
like?
associated with again cruciate ligament injury,
Ligament injury.
collateral ligament injury.
Yes, sir.
See,
He has a PCL injury.
There is a subluxation of the knee.
Yeah.
So, CT scan, as you told, because to know the anatomy of the fragments, and the that MRI to know the ligaments, what ligaments are torn. Then you have to go for a fixation.
So approach, what fixation, what implant? You would like to highlight on this?
Do you have any CT scan?
Sorry, I never got a CT done for this
depression.
patient.
Proceed what you have done.
Pardon? Sir? Yeah.
Proceed what you have done because the time is running
Yeah.
short.
The midline incision, I tried to go through a parapatellar approach, but it was not possible. It was a central fracture, a central part of the tibia with both spines were injured. So tibial tuberosity osteotomy was done. So it was fixed with 2 screws, and an X-fix was added to this. The post-op X-rays. This is a 1-year follow-up. Sorry, I missed the final
Very good
X-rays.
job. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, sir.